Hi everyone. Um,
There we
I
go.
don't know. Hi Stephanie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, hanging in there. I'm
Awesome. Oh, okay. So I guess we're just gonna get started, since Stephanie is here. So first off, thank you all for coming to the very first Artemis Girls Business Academy speaker event. Yay! um, for those of you who don't know or didn't read my email, Artemis GBA is a resource for girls who are interested in finding out like their future career with a focus in business, but you don't have to be interested in business completely because you'll still learn something new and like important life skills and even maybe get some cool swag. So to begin, I'd love it if you guys could all have your cameras on and your mics off, just so like Stephanie and me can see all your faces. It'd be nice. And then I'll give you guys a rough agenda. So it'll be about like 3 minutes for the introduction, about 25 minutes for my questions to Stephanie, and then we'll open it up to a Q&A, which will be about like 5 minutes. So you guys, everyone, all my friends can ask Stephanie some questions. So when you're like listening, you can put them in the chat and text them to me, and I can read them. Or you can just wait and have your raise your hand and stuff, and then we can call on you later. And we have a very hard stop at 35 minutes because I don't have Zoom Pro or Premium or whatever, so it'll just kick everyone out. So to avoid anyone being cut off, I'm going to try and structure it correctly, but it might not end up too well. Okay. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming. So I'm going to start with a little bit of background about our wonderful interviewee, Stephanie DiPisa, and her company, Solara Suncare. So, Solara's core mission is to create safer and cleaner sun care products. All of her products are vegan, reef-safe, cruelty-free, and plant-powered, as you can see below. And a little bit about Stephanie. She started out in PR, and with no prior entrepreneurial experience, she started Solara Suncare, which was originally for her kids who had sensitive skin and couldn't use normal sunscreen. And she found that, hey, none of these sunscreens work for her kids. So she decided to make her own, which is super cool. Since then, she's gotten rave reviews from places like or things like Vogue, The Today Show, Allure, and many more. And it can be found in Target, Whole Foods, and Nordstrom, and more stores. Yeah. And then finally, it would be awesome if you guys could follow her at Solara Suncare on Instagram and all her various social platforms. Yeah. So let me. Oh, yeah. Okay. Eva's. So, without further ado, Stephanie, could you please introduce yourself really quickly? So, your college, what you went to as your major, where your hometown was, and anything else that you think would be good for us all to know.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for that nice introduction. I am really honored to be your first speaker and definitely here to share my story, but more importantly, answer any questions you have. So do not be shy. I love that. And it's a great way for us to chat. And so a little bit about my background. I'm much older than you guys. So I graduated college way back in 2000. I went to Virginia Tech. I actually studied architecture with a minor in communications. So for me, going to college, I really had my heart set on building things. So it's kind of funny that this part of my life, I am building things just in a very different way. But that was my major. And then after I graduated, I immediately went from Virginia to New York City. And I never did my career in architecture. I did a few internships, but in doing those internships, I kind of realized that while I love design and I love to build, the culture wasn't so much for me. Back in those days, it was super male driven. You sat behind a CAD desk all day long. And I have a different personality. I like to be out and about. I like to learn from people. And PR actually was something that seemed to fit my personality a little more. I studied a little bit of it in college. And so that's what I did. I went to New York. I went right into consumer products PR. And I did that for the better part of a decade in New York City, working with some of the biggest brands out there, mostly Procter and Gamble brands. So brands like Old Spice and Pampers, Febreze, brands that you probably know. So that really gave me a really solid, almost like an MBA, I think is kind of how I explain it, in consumer products building and marketing, which I use later in my life, but I didn't know that at the time. And so after about 10 years, I had my first child and decided to take a leave from that hardcore agency life. But I continued to consult, and I consulted probably for another 10 years after that, even while I was building Solara Suncare. So, as you mentioned, back in 2016, my little toddlers had allergic reactions to chemical sunscreen. And that's really where the seed for Solara Suncare really was planted. And then it
Awesome.
grew.
I realize I've been saying it wrong this whole time. I'm saying Solara, but it's
My whole
Solera.
family says Solara, so you say it how you want. There's
Okay.
no wrong way.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I know you mentioned you went to school for architecture, which is super interesting. And as you know, most of us are going into 11th grade right now, which is a really stressful time because we have to figure out what college we want to go to based on what major we want to study and what places and job and stuff. So how did you figure all that web of confusion out? And obviously you didn't end up doing architecture, but what can you say about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I also have an 11th grader. So I feel what you're going through right now, and I'm seeing it firsthand through his eyes. And it is a hard time, and I totally get that. From my personal experience, I would say, um, it's important when you're looking at colleges to find programs that you're really interested in. And for me, that passion was definitely design and architecture. But the truth is, once you get there, you sometimes have your eyes open to so many other things that maybe you didn't realize you were interested in. And so, my advice that I always tell everyone is whatever school you choose, just get involved, right? Get involved as much as you can, especially outside of your area of interest. And for me, that's where I really learned about communications and event planning. I actually joined the American Society of Architects and Designers, which was a school club. And within that organization, took on a leadership role as the communications and event person. And so that's really where my eyes were opened up to these other avenues. So I would say for me, it was important to keep a really open mind and not to feel like once you're in college, you have one straight path, because the truth is there's a lot of different ways that you can go and still end up back where you're supposed to be. The other thing I'll say is internships. In high school and in college, I know I did them. My son is working to do that right now as well, because for me, I believe hands-on experience is really important to learning what you're interested in, what your strengths are, what your opportunities are. So I would say for me, even studying for school and getting good grades is extremely important. But I also think that real world experience sometimes can give you a little bit better sense of what you might be interested in than what you see, what you read in a book or what you see even on Instagram.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's really good advice for us right now because I know I'm feeling a little bit of pressure. So it's good to know that you have so many doors open.
Absolutely. You're never stuck in one spot. There's so many different ways that you can go, even within your own majors or your interest zones, so to speak. And that's my opinion. Like, you should never feel like it's a one track path. We all get to different paths through all different ways. And, if you choose a path and for a while, like, after I graduated, everyone, including my parents, were like, wow, you just wasted all those years of an architecture education to not do it. But the truth is, I still to this day use the skills that I learned in my major as an architect. So, sometimes the path isn't as linear, but it's amazing the things that are put in your path and when they might find, it be a benefit to you later on. And for me, the design aspect is something I've really pulled through in this company. And I don't think without that background, I would have had the same knowledge to enter what I'm doing now without help. And so, you never know how it will resurface.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I'm kind of wondering, so how did you didn't have the proper like business education,
I
but business
didn't.
is such a confusing thing, especially like when you're creating your own product, and especially like sunscreen, you have to like do all the chemistry. So how was that solved and how did you do that?
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but the truth is in all the work that I did in PR and communications, I had the benefit of working with Procter and Gamble, and at Procter and Gamble, research and development and science is super important. And so that was an area that I got exposed to very early, and understanding that the road to product development is actually very long, and it's not as easy as somebody may think. There's a lot of trial and error, there's a ton of testing, and there's also a lot of legal. And so it was that experience where I knew when I started Solara that I was never going to be making this product in my kitchen. Sunscreen's a drug, so I couldn't anyway. But that it was important to find the experts in the areas that I was not an expert. So for us, we have a cosmetic chemist. We actually have more than one cosmetic chemist that really leads the science portion of it, while I can be creative, and I'm very hands-on. I love science. I love to dig into the ingredients, but you need an expert to formulate for you. And so I wasn't adept in that. So that's where I would hire somebody to help me there. Same with legal and same with regulatory. So that's one thing I would say is where you're not an expert, learn as much as you can, but also bring people in that know more than you do. And there's no shame in that. It's actually an interesting path to go. You can learn something new from that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important lesson as well because you can't do everything, especially with your own business.
No.
But you are the boss of your company. You're the head. You're the leader. So, what would you say is the most fun part about owning your own company?
Well, I think for me, the creativity and the flexibility. So, because I am my own boss, I'm able to basically do all kinds of things that maybe I wouldn't get to do if I was working under somebody else in this type of atmosphere, which can be a blessing and a curse, that's for sure. But for me, that's what I love about it. I love that I have the power to make decisions. With that comes a lot of responsibility, and it's been a very big learning curve for me. But I would say that's a really big part that I enjoy is,
Mm-hmm.
taking what I'm doing now and creating things that make a difference to other people. It feels really, really good to be able to do that. But being in charge is a good thing sometimes. And it's your vision and things that you want. You know, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer. I think I also like creative stuff, so it's fun to hear.
Yeah.
Um, I guess since we asked what your favorite part, what would you say is like the most difficult or your least favorite part?
Oh gosh. Well, there's a few things. I mentioned the blessing and the curse. So the curse of being your own boss and being a small brand like we are is that you do have to wear all the hats. And sometimes that can be really challenging from a time management standpoint, from a responsibility standpoint. There's a lot of pressure with that, and every decision that you make is your decision. So as many successes you have, you're going to have a lot of failures too. And I always like to share that because I think right now, especially on social media, there's a rise of like the entrepreneur life. And it looks very glamorous, and it looks like you can work from anywhere and you can be your own boss. And those are amazing perks. But rarely do people show the other side of that, which is the 24/7 type of lifestyle that is hard to balance. The challenges that you have to overcome on a day to day basis, and some failures too. And that can be a challenge. And I think sometimes people don't show that, but that's part of being a business owner, no matter the size of your business, if it's a brand, if it's a store. There's always very high highs and very low lows. So it's about trying to find the balance in between and having thick skin because it's not easy.
Yeah, I think yeah, I definitely agree. It's good to hear, but like that you, it's good to hear the part that we don't normally see, and especially with everyone today and all the things.
Yeah, I wish we would see more of that. Maybe that's something I have to work on at some point. Because I do think, I know I fall victim to it, when you're scrolling and you're like, everybody else is doing it better. Everyone else is doing, and the truth is you're just not seeing the other side, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone has their struggles. Well, my final question to you before we get started with the Q&A is, do you have any advice for girls who are interested in like business leadership or just like trying to find their path in life? And it might be something that you wish someone would have told you when you were growing up, but yeah, just a little bit of advice.
Yeah, no, I would say like for me the number one thing is to get involved and to do it sooner than later because I think we need more women in business. We need more people that are leaderships, female leaders that are part of decision making, right? And so it takes a while to get to that path where you can be in that seat to make decisions and I think, hard work gets you there. So I would say for sure. Get involved, start being a leader. You are a fantastic example just in what you're doing right here. These are stepping stones to much bigger opportunities as you grow. And so I would say that is number one. And also find somebody local in your own community that you do look up to, that you do think is possibly doing something either in your interest zone or maybe you just find what they're doing to be really cool and you want to learn more because most of us really want to see more female leaders and would absolutely take the time to let you shadow or to find an internship or a part-time job. So I would say find somebody maybe that could mentor you and carry you through the process because I will say a lot of what I do and have done since college is definitely hard work. But a lot of it too is the luck of having really solid relationships because sometimes it is more about who you know and putting yourself out there in real life than it is other things. So don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, that's great. I think reaching out to people and it's like kind of scary sometimes, but it's nice that we're cute high school girls that it probably makes it a lot easier.
That's exactly right. And the more you do it now, and it will be hard in the beginning, it'll help you. It will be easier then as you kind of grow and go through college and internships and then your first jobs thereafter. It gets easier.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is everyone can like raise their hand if you have like a question and want to say it out loud, or just put it in the chat and I'll read it. But yeah, I guess since everyone will probably be typing their questions that I told you guys to write in the chat right now, I'll ask you one more question. Yeah. What's next for Solara?
Solara, all of it.
Yeah.
It's funny. My kids actually named my company. So they do call it Solara. I don't know. For some reason, to me, it doesn't roll off my tongue, but everyone else calls it that. So that's a little fun fact for you. My kids actually did that. But so what's next for us? I mean, we're only 4 years old. We just celebrated our 4-year birthday last month. So we are in a lot of retail partners. And that is going to be growing for us in a bigger way next year. So I'm really excited about that. And also we have some new products coming. So that takes a really long time for sunscreen. It's not just something that you can, whip up and put out there. It sometimes takes 2 to 3 years to create a good sunscreen. And so we're always formulating, we're always improving our formulas. We do listen to the feedback. So we have some really fun things coming, and I'm personally excited for that because we launched and then COVID happened. And so we've had a long run of, not doing all the things that we had in our business plan. It was a real challenge to have to pivot and pivot and pivot. But this is our first year of finally being, in the real world, with doors open and travel happening. So we're having a good year, but next year will be really exciting.
That's awesome. I'm sure if you guys go follow Stephanie or Solara Suncare right now, you guys can keep updated. Lucy, you have a question or your hand is raised. Please ask your question.
Yeah, so you talked a lot about like the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. So I'm kind of wondering like how do you manage to balance being a businesswoman and your personal life?
That's a really good question, and one that I need to do better. That's the truth. That's the truth. I haven't yet solved that. But what I have found and what I have started doing is I actually will now block off time in my schedule for me to step away from my computer, to leave my phone at home or turn it off, and be outside, be in nature, and do something that's completely unrelated to my kids, to my family, to the business. And most days I can get that done because I'm kind of type A. So if it's in my calendar, I'll follow it. If it's not in my calendar, the time will just pass. So that's one thing that I have started doing. And like I said, for me, being outside is an instant way to clear my mind because I'm always behind my computer. And I sometimes don't realize that that's not always so healthy. Sunshine is a good thing, and we are a sunscreen company. So being outside has really helped with that. Also reading, that's another thing that I like to do, is like reading or television shows that are totally mindless. Nothing to do with building businesses, nothing to do with being a better mom, just straight entertainment for an hour a day for me kind of resets my mind.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I see Yoshiko asked another question. Oh, we're getting so many questions. I'm so happy. Yoshiko said, does the name Solara have any meaning behind it? And what were any other names that you, name ideas that you had?
That's a good question. I don't remember all the other names, but I maybe one of them will pop in my mind. But Solara, it actually, I know this is surprising, but it actually doesn't mean anything. And we did a lot of research on that because anytime that you're building a brand that you want to be in the public eye, you need to trademark that. That is your intellectual property. You don't want anyone to ever take that away from you, steal it, any of those things. So we did a lot of research, and it turns out it really doesn't mean anything. However, Solaris, we tried all different versions of different words that sound like sun in other languages. So that was kind of where the idea for Solara came from. And when we narrowed it down, we did a focus group with friends and family, and then friends of friends, and Solara was the winner. And it's funny, it works so well for us because people do think it's a like a European style name, and people find that enticing. So it's really served us well.
I see Taylor direct messaged me. What is your favorite product or the one that like sells the best?
Oh, I like Fortune Teller because I'm old and I did a lot of sun damage in my early years. So that product helps correct past damage and brighten your skin. But our most popular ones right now, and actually all of you guys will be getting them, are these two products, and then the blue light mist, which I thought I had on my desk, but I don't. So this is Vacation Glow and Daily Defense. These are our very best sellers. These are the ones always on TikTok. People mix them together. And so, yeah, so these are the ones that at the current moment are selling the best for us.
And then there's more questions. What does your days look like as an entrepreneur? Do you have a set schedule that you follow for most days, or is it kind of more go with the flow? That's from Kari.
That's a good question, Kari, because one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur is that my days never do look the same. For me, now my husband's the polar opposite. He's a finance and statistic guy. He loves the repetition. Me, I have a little bit of a different mindset, and my creativity takes over. So I love that none of my days ever look the same. They can be a mix of development, marketing, and retail meetings. It can be me doing trainings. No day ever looks the same. But the second part of that question about following a schedule is yes. I have in the beginning I did not, and my creative brain took over and often would lead me in paths that weren't as productive. So I have since learned to really hone that in and create a really tight set schedule for myself with blocks of time, and that works really, really well for getting my to-do list taken care of.
Yeah, I think that's kind of mostly the same with me. I like started having a schedule, but also I don't know. I'm kind of a mix of both.
I need those guardrails.
Yeah. So Madison asked, have you always been interested in making sunscreen, and were there other products that you considered when starting out?
So, no, I was never interested in making sunscreen at any point in my life until my kids had a need and I couldn't find what I needed on the shelf. Everything that was there was so old school and unpleasant. And that is really was my motivator. And then once I got into it, I realized how fascinating it is and how much improvement there needed to be. Other markets like Europe and Asia have way better sunscreen options than we're allowed to have here in the United States. So once I determined that, I was like, okay, hold on, I want to be a part of changing that. So that's really what motivates me. And in terms of other products, I didn't think, well, we did have a serum at one time, which I could tell you about on another time, at another time, because it was interesting key learning. But we've always really stayed focused on sunscreen only. And the reason for that is, especially in beauty, there are so many brands and products launching every single day. And if you want to get into retail, you have to be really different. And the truth is, there are not very many brands that only focus on sunscreen. So that for us has been a really big differentiator. And I think why we've gotten into Whole Foods and Target. Like, not many brands want to take that responsibility on because it's a little crazy.
Thank you so much. And then our final question, just because we're kind of running out of time, what do you do to keep yourself motivated and productive, especially in a world with so many distractions? That's from Abby.
Yeah, I love to eat and I love to travel. So for me, I'm a foodie and I love to travel. Those are the two things that kind of for me instantly reset. But one thing that I have been doing lately, which I was guilty of not doing in the beginning, is getting off the social media. That to me is a major distractor. Like, I think for all of us, we can just hop on and instantly an hour passes us by, right? So as an entrepreneur, that I have my settings so that there are only set times a day that I'll go on there, and I really stick to that, because not only is it a distraction personally, but it's a distraction professionally. When you start seeing and being targeted by competitors and other products, and what everyone's saying, and it can really get into your head. And so I choose not to go down that path anymore. It's healthier for me to stay focused on what we're doing and stay positive on all the great things that we have going on. It's hard to do, but I highly recommend it.
That's really smart, especially because just scrolling on any social platform can lead to hours.
Absolutely.
But I don't mean to cut anyone off. I don't think anyone else had any more questions, but I guess this is my little wrap-up speech. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming and being here.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone learned so much, and it's really awesome that you were our first one. And then thank you to all my friends for participating. And as a thank you, I think Stephanie already mentioned it, but we're going to find a way to get all of these, I think it's called the Trend Spotter bundle. and they're gonna come in this little cute bag that Stephanie has really kindly given all of you guys. They're all super awesome, and I have some myself, and I especially like this the blue light defense spray. It is so nice, and it smells like cucumbers, and I use it every time I sit down at my computer. So
I love that. I love
I'm sure,
that.
yeah, I'm sure everyone will really enjoy it. So thank you for that. And yeah, we'll find a way to get it to you if you haven't. And once again, follow Stephanie. Follow Stephanie at Solara Suncare, and I'm going to be sending everyone a follow-up email that's going to ask you to take this survey that I'm going to put in the chat right now. It's just like a feedback survey, so we know what we did well, we know what we did bad for next time. And then it also has the second link is to sign up for Artemis on our website. It makes things official, and it's make sure you guys don't miss any upcoming events or free giveaways or free stuff, swag. And then finally, mark your calendars for September 27th, because that's when I'm going to be having my second speaker event. We're going to be interviewing another super cool female entrepreneur who is just starting up her own wellness beverage company. So it'd be awesome if you guys could all come and maybe invite your friends if you think they'd be interested. Yeah, okay, that's all. Thank you so much.
Yay, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was so good to meet all of you. And you have my email address, and I also answer all the DMs on my personal Instagram and on Solara. They'll flag it for me. So if you think of anything at any point, or you're curious as you're looking for internships and opportunities, my door is truly open. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, thanks again. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.